Ms. Capps, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Dr. Bush, what impact on oil demand and imports did California's measures have?
Well, we actually build on the analysis of the California Air Resources Board, and so using their numbers, we found that AB 32 policies would lead to a reduction of 75 million barrels per year. About an 18% reduction is the forecasted reduction.
And
well, that's about $11 billion of a reduction in the import bill.
I hope that's being listened to by everyone.
Broadly speaking, in terms of economic drivers, I would point out California clean jobs have been growing about 3 times faster than jobs overall. In 2008, while overall jobs were shrinking, green jobs grew in California by 5%. In 2009, they grew 3%, while overall jobs grew 1%, so again about 3 times faster. And green manufacturing grew at a 10% rate in 2009. And 24% of green jobs are manufacturing jobs in California.
Absolutely.
Versus 11% of the overall employment. The broader macroeconomic analyses haven't factored in the benefits to public health, in addition to the price spikes, insurance, and the national security implications. So, I mean, in California, the numbers I've seen, Cal State Fullerton study was $28 billion per year in health costs from the burning of fossil fuels in California. We don't burn much coal, so most of that would be on the transport side, so the big winners would be cleaning up transportation.
Thank you very much.
But we do appreciate this panel being with us this morning. We look forward to your testimony as we have this hearing on the effects of Middle East events on U.S. energy markets. We convened today's hearing to have a discussion on recent developments in the Middle East and North Africa and their effect on world energy markets. Violent protests and political uncertainty in Egypt 2 weeks ago caused a sudden spike in oil prices that over the past few days has gradually subsided. The price increase was driven by investor fears over the possible shutdown.
I'm glad that my colleague is still here so that I can say that California, where we do have a strong labor movement, rejected the Koch brothers' attempt to remove all the clean air regulations that we have in California by voting down Proposition 23 in the last election. And I just want to address a few questions to you, Dr. Bush, because we also really support the Apollo Alliance as a jobs alliance in California. And I believe that we can look at renewable energy without being disparaging on any other form of energy and say this is a jobs opportunity for the future. We hear from the majority today that the way to reduce our dependence on foreign oil is to drill our way out of the problem. We know in California, but I think we know in our country that that's not true by a long shot. We use so much oil in this country. I actually think it's too precious to waste on energy because of the other products that oil can offer us, life-saving products. There is no way we could ever produce enough to meet our needs domestically. If we had adopted what many of us on this side of the dais and some on the other side as well had called for in the 1990s, like efficiency standards for our vehicles, homes, and appliances, we may not have found ourselves in the situation we are in today. Dr. Bush, the Republican majority also claims that taking action to reduce carbon pollution would be too expensive. But that's not what you found when you looked at the demand side, and that's what I want to ask you about today. You and your colleagues examined the effects of California's clean energy law, which will lead to the adoption of more efficient vehicles and lower carbon fuels. California standards will reduce the amount of oil used by cars. Dr. Bush, what impact on oil demand and imports did California's measures have?
Well, we actually build on the analysis of the California Air Resources Board, and so using their numbers, we found that AB 32 policies would lead to a reduction of 75 million barrels per year. About an 18% reduction is the forecasted reduction.
And that's going to save California a little money? About how much?
Yeah, well, that's the AEO reference price annual energy outlook from the Department of Energy's EIA that we were working with, $114.50 per barrel. That's about $11 billion of a reduction in the import bill.
I hope that's being listened to by everyone here today. I think that's not pocket change. In your study, you examined an additional benefit of the clean car standards, the protection they offer from oil price shocks. Please tell us about that benefit.
Right. Well, we didn't actually separate the car standards, but the overall sort of protection under the price shock scenarios, and these were increases in gas or diesel of about 25% in the lower scenario and 50% in the higher scenario. So about $1 or a little more than $2 increase in gasoline, the price of gasoline, reduces the saves consumers about $3 to $7 billion more, or roughly $200 to $500 if you would spread that over across households.
And that's not a partisan estimate. That's a study that's across the board, right?
Yes.
Okay. I know now you weren't here yesterday, but we had a hearing in our same subcommittee, received, I think, a quite compelling testimony from the EPA administrator when she testified that the American public and from the American Public Health Association witnessed that greenhouse gas emissions do threaten the public's health. Are there additional benefits to the public's health from oil reduction policy? And by that I want to extrapolate. It's important to save people's health not only for their well-being, but because healthy people make better working people and can actually help us to grow our economy. Can you please tell us some of the policies that will get us the most bang for the buck in terms of public health being an economic driver?
Well, I guess broadly speaking, in terms of economic drivers, I would point out California clean jobs have been growing about 3 times faster than jobs overall. In 2008, while overall jobs were shrinking, green jobs grew in California by 5%. In 2009, they grew 3%, while overall jobs grew 1%, so again about 3 times faster. And green manufacturing grew at a 10% rate in 2009. And 24% of green jobs are manufacturing jobs in California.
Absolutely.
Versus 11% of the overall employment. But on the health cost issue, I would say, the broader macroeconomic analyses haven't factored in the benefits to public health. In addition to the price spikes, insurance, and the national security implications. So, in California, the numbers I've seen, Cal State Fullerton study was $28 billion per year in health costs from the burning of fossil fuels in California. We don't burn much coal, so most of that would be on the transport side, so the big winners would be cleaning up transportation.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Burgess, you're recognized for 5 minutes. Dr. Bush, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman and Ranking Member Rush. Thank you for the invitation to testify today. My name is Chris Bush, and I am the Policy and Program Director for the Apollo Alliance. We are a national alliance of labor, business, environmental, and community groups working towards clean energy solutions that also grow the economy and improve American competitiveness. Every president since Nixon has sought to lessen our dependency on imported oil. Though we have started to turn the corner thanks to policies like the 2010 Clean Car Standards, America still faces this challenge. Nearly 60% of U.S. demand is now met by imported oil. The U.S. accounts for 22% of the world's oil consumption, but we only possess 1.4% of the world's proven reserves. Those numbers are slightly different than Mr. Waxman's, but those are according to the EIA's 2009 data. These numbers tell a simple truth. No matter how deep we drill, domestic oil supplies cannot solve this problem. We must put in place policies to address the demand side of the problem. And fortunately for America, there are promising transportation policy options that work hand in glove with market incentives to encourage energy savings and innovation. These policies can help consumers save money. They also position American industry to succeed in a fast-growing global market for clean technologies. Consider the example of the new federal car and light truck fuel economy standards finalized last year. The EPA estimates that the standards will reduce oil demand by 1.8 billion barrels for vehicles sold through 2016. And as Mr. Waxman mentioned, when the standard is fully phased in, the average consumer will save about $3,000 over the life of their vehicle. That's about $150 per vehicle each year. I'd like to talk about some research I did in California with Jamie Fine of the Environmental Defense Fund and Ramy Garderet of Energy Independence Now. We calculated the benefits of reduced oil dependency due to AB 32, California's capstone clean energy law. AB 32 reduces California's dependency on imported oil through clean car and clean fuel standards and by providing alternatives to driving. We found that in the year 2020, California will avoid demand equal to 75 million barrels of oil, about an 18% decrease due to AB 32 policies. At the 2009 Department of Energy's mid-range price forecast, which was $114.50 per barrel, those were the numbers we were working with when we were doing this research. That reduces California's imported oil bill by about $11 billion. While shaving $11 billion off the state's import bill is a significant avoided cost, we also estimated the benefits following an oil price shock. We have experienced 6 significant price shocks in the past 40 years. We all remember oil nearing $150 per barrel in 2008. Oil price shocks have been a reality of world oil markets, and surging demand from China and other countries suggests they will become more common, not less. Our analysis looked at two oil price shocks that caused the price of gasoline and diesel to jump by roughly $1 or $2 above a starting point of $3.42 per gallon in the case of gasoline. The diesel jump is more like $2.50, and these were linked to the oil shocks we were looking at. The result of these oil shocks is that AB 32 saves consumers an additional $3 to $7 billion, or about $200 to $500 per household when the savings are distributed over the households projected to exist in 2020 in California. One of our objectives was to help policymakers understand what is and what is not included in the economic analyses they receive and depend upon. Though oil price shocks are a reality, economic studies are not capturing these painful economic effects. Typically, energy policy analyses assume smooth prices. National security implications, as well as pollution reductions and related public health benefits, are also almost never integrated in economic analyses of energy policy. Attacking the demand side of our imported oil dependency is where real progress will be made. The Apollo Alliance has recently advanced a clean transportation manufacturing action plan that I would like to ask be entered in the record. I have it here. The plan calls for increased investment in public transit and railway, as well as stronger Buy America provisions and loan assistance to help grow domestic manufacturing jobs. The plan is projected to create 3.7 million jobs over 6 years. These are new jobs in every region of the country and include more than 600,000 manufacturing jobs. This is part of the Sputnik challenge described by the President. We have the technologies needed to get started, and while the world needs American leadership in advancing the innovation frontier further, the big winner will be the American worker. Thank you for considering my testimony.
Thank you, Mr. John. You recognized.